glad to say that we can move on here, and we're going to be joined by fellow, and this is how I started out earlier, not exactly sure the term to use, because depending on where you read or what you go or what terms you use, if you want to say gun rights activist, freedom activist, somebody who has definitely put his name on the map for good and in a great way. Like I said earlier, somebody who has changed so many minds and gotten people to accept, absolute freedom, like real freedom, and stop supporting this institution that supports this violence and as we refer to this death cult of the police state and the surveillance society control grid that's being put around us. But Adam Kokesh is joining us, and he just released his book, which I said earlier I read 2 times. It's an excellent book. It is definitely a game changer. I recommend everybody checking this out. And we are joined by the one and only Adam Kokesh. Adam, thank you for joining the show, brother.
Hey, my pleasure, Anthony. I really appreciate the opportunity to come on and plug my book. And I know you've read it, and I know this is like the one part you said in your introduction there that I really appreciated. And I have to admit, on the grander scale of things, I'm actually, relatively behind the curve on this one. But what it really comes down to is changing minds, waking people up, how many people you can pull out of the matrix and, change their world. And that's been like the most amazing thing for me about this line of work, is getting emails. And you know what that's like when you get someone who sends you an email that says, "Oh, thanks. You rock my world. You changed my perspective. If it wasn't for you, I'd still be, a miserable status of this, that, and the other kind." And right now, man, it's really an interesting time for me, because having just released this book, in a way, I don't want to do anything else other than get people to read this book. I mean, it is. I wrote it to be the ultimate red pill, and I think I succeeded.
Yeah, no, I couldn't agree with you more, and that's. I'm hoping we can somehow. I'm getting a little bit of feedback here. I don't know why. I'm hoping we can get more people to read this, and like I said earlier, talking about this book, and if somebody tries to debate you. I mean, just think of the smackdown you could give them by saying you need to read my book, or I literally wrote the book on freedom, which I think is just awesome. But yeah, the ultimate red pill, that's a great way to put it, because that's what it is. It's easy reading, it's common, it's such common sense, but the way you articulate things like you do, you get people thinking, and am I still good here?
You're good.
Okay. But you have a way of articulating things and getting the gears turning in people's minds, and they start questioning things. And when you have this racket known as government, where the police say, I'm just following orders, and the politicians say, oh, we're just doing what the people want, and then the people say, oh, we hate them all, but we're voting for the lesser of 2 evils. There's no accountability whatsoever. And when you finally get to the point where you're like, listen, I don't want any of this whatsoever. I don't want to be a part of this system. And that's where a lot of us have gotten, and you display that better than anybody I know.
And everything I've done so far pales in comparison to this book. It's really insignificant, and I hate to make it all about the book, but really that's all I care about right now, is getting people to read this book. I'm not selling it. It's available for free in every digital format possible online already on my website, and it's really exciting to see the reception so far, because people who read it go, oh crap, we need to get everybody on the planet to read this book. And it's bigger than me. Like, this book is way bigger than me already, and the idea came to me when I was in jail. And I really think that the book represents a relatively small innovation in terms of the delivery of the message of freedom. There are many greats who have gone before me, and I particularly would cite Konkin and Rothbard and Dr. Ron Paul. But there's so many others in there who have contributed to Molyneux as well. Contributed to my own development, my own development of my worldview, of my framework, of my analysis that I'm sharing in this book. And it came to me in a vision when I was in jail, the idea for this book, and it was just like, wait a second. You mean this book hasn't been written yet? Like, are you serious? Like, no way, nobody's tried to write this book? I mean, and yeah, there have been probably dozens of attempts for people, trying to write the next great libertarian manifesto. Yeah, I know it's a crowded field in that
common
sense.
Common sense, right?
Yeah, well, yeah, you want to go back to common sense. But, I mean, this book is really unique in that it takes, liberty defined by Ron Paul has a distinct structure to it of very short subchapters, and I used that, not that that was original for Liberty Defined, and I took the a lot of the philosophical ideas that I got from Rothbard and I got from Molyneux that were often very complex, very difficult to understand, that were full of footnotes and things like that and historical examples, and I took all that stuff out and really boiled it down. And one of the things that I really disdain of all sort of prior attempts at writing this book is that they've been Amerocentric in nature, very much from the American perspective. My book is about the global phenomenon of statism. We're getting it translated into enough languages to cover 90% of the world population. That'll be ready for the main release on July 4th. Right now, we just did the pre-release a week and a half ago, and it's been amazing to see the response since then. But this is also sort of an updated version of maybe subjects that Rothbard would have been writing about today in terms of the effect of the internet and 3D printing and cryptocurrencies. Those are all mentioned in there. But also the idea of localization, which I think is a really unique take on where we go from here. But having all of that boiled down, like I wrote this because there wasn't one book that you could hand to someone and say, this is it, read this, and you'll go from zero to I get it, and that's it. And you don't have there's tons of other stuff you can read, and we have a for further reading thread on our forums, forums.adamversustheman.com. But really, if there was one thing that I would want people to read, it would be this, and that's why I wrote it this way.
Yeah, and I mean, this is where I'm coming from is no matter these status or I hear all the time that people are constantly, no matter what. I know people that call themselves libertarians on local radio shows, and people that call themselves straight up socialists, and no matter what the argument is, their solution is always government. And I got in a little bit of an argument with one of the hosts recently, and okay, we're good. And I called them up. I said, why is it when something serious happens, why is it that you always abandon your principles? Like, you agree, I told them, I'm like, you agree with me almost on everything when it comes to the prison industrial complex and too many people in jail and this police state. You agree with me when I make all these cases, but when something happens in real time, they abandon all their ideas. And he even had a couple good ideas, but he's like, oh, that might be too dangerous, might take too long, we need to get more police in there. And I'm like, your answer is always government. I'm like, why? And he got mad at me that day and actually, yelled at me and told me to shut up, But people who agree with me on a regular basis, when it comes down to something in real time, it's like they can't stand by their principles and say, well, they don't know anything but government. So, when you have people like that, other than, yeah, of course, I would love to get them to read your book, but do you think they just haven't made it that far in the progression?
Damn, you took my answer there. No, I think, in a way, yeah, I really do think the book is the answer, because what you're always doing in a conversation with someone is getting a snippet, and I can give you some advice, like what I like to do, and what works for me. And I'm not talking about my videos, because, in a lot of my videos, I'm trying to put people on the spot and highlight their cognitive dissonance and let it be in its ugliest form. But I always give people the opportunity to come around, of course, otherwise it wouldn't be any fun. But when you're talking about like one-on-one outreach and individual conversations, the most important thing is to listen and to hear what people's attachments are to statism. So like to someone in the example that you're using there, you would say, well, why? Why is it that, what is it that you think you're accomplishing with the police? And then you can get down to their assumptions rather than just arguing, one position versus another position in a way that you go back and forth and you don't make any progress. But the reason then, if you can do that with someone, that's great, and it would really be helpful to get someone in that position to read the book. Although, I know it is so hard to get people to read books. We've got an audio book. It's 3 hours long, and this book is short. It's less than 100 pages. In a full 8.5 by 11, it's only 62 pages, and you can actually, that's with the covers, you can have it printed. There's a print your own PDF version on our website. You can do it in 31 pages, double-sided, and have the entire book. So 3 hours, you can get someone to read this. But the reason I say that is so valuable, and it's not just about the book. I mean, I'm using this as a way to answer your question, that when you're running into someone that has those kinds of irrational objections, it helps for them to have a complete picture. And if you give them, like, well, here's my complete picture in 30 seconds, a non-violent society with no government and no coercion, blah, 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 and they go, okay, but what, and immediately they've got a dozen but what about questions. And the book really answers all the but what about questions. And I would say, in this sense, the book is one tool of, there are others out there that give people that comprehensive sense of it. Like, you really have to, I think we all, in the process of waking up, there's never really like a moment of awakening, but there is kind of a period or a point at which things kind of congeal in your brain, and then you're able to go like, I get it now. I've got this framework, I've got this, whatever you want to call it, the message, the philosophy internalized, and you don't have to get to that point to be able to communicate with someone, but I think they need the sense of that complete picture.
Yeah, no, I couldn't agree with you more. So when you look at, after all the years of you doing this, and you look at now what we're, as far as people accepting this philosophy, and I do this with certain things, whether it be 9/11, and I wonder, because I know there are so many people that get certain things and then they kind of fade off into the background. In your opinion, where do you think the people are at as far as the philosophy of freedom? Because I know a lot of people, and I covered this earlier in the show, I know there's a lot more people than I even expect, and I gave a couple examples of why I believe this, but I believe there are a lot more people than I think that are starting to understand this this philosophy of freedom. Where are you at on that? Do you think that there's a huge growing number of people that are getting it, and that corporate-owned media is just really doing everything they can to try to make it seem like we're more divided than we are on this concept of freedom?
Well, I'm the eternal optimist, and it's really amazing to be part of a movement that is on the right side of history. That you see it growing, you see it coming your way, like you see that you figured something out. Because it's not that we as libertarians believe in something and we're hoping that more people will someday believe in this. We have figured something out, and it's just a matter of bringing this message and sharing this knowledge and this perspective with the rest of the world. So I see that in a very specific sense, the movement is growing of people who are being converted, and I think there was a huge bump in that with Ron Paul, although a lot of that was a bit of an illusion, and that people assumed everybody who was a Ron Paul supporter also got it, and that was definitely not true. But there was a huge spike in terms of people coming in when Ron Paul was running for president. There have been other similar spikes around elections, but none like 2008 and 2012. And the broader trend is for there to be more and more libertarians. But in the general population, it's tempting to think that people are getting it, but I don't think that's it. And I want to make a fine distinction here. I talk about this in the book in terms of the growing awareness and the paradigm shift. That I was out walking my dog earlier today and ran into a guy that lives down the street who said he went and saw my shotgun video after I introduced myself to him and his family a couple of weeks ago, just walking by their house out here, walking my dog. And I was talking to him about the book, and I don't mean to make this about the book. I really didn't mean to do it that time. But I was
fine, brother.
and I said, well, he asked me what it was about, and I said, well, you know how that there's the narrative that the people in charge, the mainstream media, the political leadership of this country, want you to believe, that there's this picture that they paint that's mostly bullshit. And he goes, oh yeah, I know about that. And this guy's not politically inclined at all. But he's like, yeah, I know that that's a little crap. And I go, well, what this book is about is the complete explanation of how and why and what the reality is, in contrast to that bullshit mainstream narrative. And he goes, okay. And what I'm hoping and what I'm banking on is that the guy in that position wants the understanding that comes out of the book, that he wants the message. Right. And I think he does. I really think he does. And I think when he gets it, he's going to be turned on by it. To me, talking to my neighbor like that makes it a very very easy test case. And we'll see. But that to answer your question, really, that's where I see the general population is. I think the understanding that is inevitably and undeniably growing is not an understanding of liberty, because that is growing, yes, undeniably, but on a much smaller scale. But on the big scale, what's developing is a disconnect between the official narrative and people's faith in it, people's understanding of how far reality is. maybe 10 years ago, if reality was 100% and the narrative was giving you 10% of that, people have perceived it as being closer to 80 and 90, and now people are going, wait a second, no, it's really more like 20, 30. It's really that much more disconnected from reality, and I think that's the divide that's growing. I think that's what we need to capitalize on. And I feel like, the book does it, but I also feel like, and Anthony, you know about this, and you know that this is something I really appreciate about the way that you approach the news and media in your show, is that you don't pull punches. If you say, oh no, this little slice of the narrative is bullshit, then they go, oh, okay, thanks, cool, well, I kind of already knew that, no big deal. But if you say, no, here's the alternative, here's the complete reality, government is a scam, fundamentally incompatible with freedom, you're providing a much better service. And I think that's really important to point out, that I think the shows that are really successful, that really have loyal audiences doing what we're doing, are the ones that give people the full picture.
And you have to. And that's the main thing about it is your credibility, and I appreciate that. And actually, this segues into the next question. I was going to ask you, because I know you, obviously, I know you're the eternal optimist, and I was going to ask you, what would you say when I had Christopher Cantwell on my show a couple weeks ago, and he said that liberty or freedom isn't inevitable, that we still have to continue to do something, and we do have to open up minds and get people to understand, well, because it's a journey, and you've known me since I was way before where I'm at now, so it's a journey, and you have to go on that. So in that aspect, I certainly agree with them. So being the eternal being the optimist that you are, you're not saying that. I know you do say that freedom is inevitable, but you're not making that case by saying that people could just sit back and wait for it, right? Oh, do I have audio?
You have audio, he doesn't.
Oh, sorry, no. I think as an individual, yeah, you really can. And it's really important.
I broke up. You broke up for about a minute there.
You want
to go ahead?
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, you're good.
All right. I think as an individual you could. I think it's really important to point that out, that there's no mandate for liberty. You know, that's kind of a contradictory idea, that like if you want freedom, you have to fight for it now. And I agree that there's a lot of work to be done. I mean, I'm doing what I'm doing because I believe in that, and I'm passionate about it. I think this is the most value that I can provide to humanity. But at the same time, when I say freedom is inevitable, obviously I'm not saying that we couldn't all blow each other up with nukes first, although I think that's extremely unlikely. Or that, we could have the gray goose scenario where someone invents like the microscopic, single cellular, whatever nano computer thing that takes over the entire planet and like turns it all into gray goo because it's able to absorb matter and remake itself like a virus, or that some actual biological virus is going to wipe us out first. I'm not saying that those things aren't real possibilities, and I'm not saying that what we have today isn't terrible and worth fighting against, because there are people suffering. And I talk about this in the book too, why it's so important to bring this about as soon as possible, this paradigm shift, and bring as many people along into the asymptote of the human experience together. It's a really exciting process, but I think my perspective is really important for people to get, because if you go the other way, if you go, hey, if you do what Ronald Reagan said, hey, if we don't get freedom here, it's 100 years of darkness. There's no place left but America. No, I mean, come on, like you gotta. It's so anybody who's trying to foist that on you is either trying to sell you something or project their own, emotional projection somehow. Like, I don't know how to describe it, but there's something really unhealthy to that as well. And it's not that we have to fight for liberty; it's that you get to fight for liberty. It's that you get to be a part of this process. But also to recognize the humility that we have as individual human beings. That while we can shape the face of our destiny, the course of human history is really determined by forces of nature, by things that are bigger than us. And my point, most importantly, in saying that the achievement of a free society is inevitable, is to point out that those are the dominant forces, that like humanity marches on, that we are marching towards a state of perfect harmony, of liberty, that it is in the nature of life itself, is this grand experiment that energy harmonizes, that energy comes together in life, and that what we are experiencing as humanity, especially with the internet now, the rapid development of the hive mind, is a beautiful coming together. And you really have to deny a lot of reality, and including statistics now about violence, to suggest that we're going in the opposite direction, that somehow humanity is going to become more violent or more statist.
Yeah, and no, I see that, and I get that, but I guess where I'm coming from is, if I wasn't exposed to the minds that I've been exposed to, and if they didn't do what they did, people that came before me, I wouldn't have gotten to the point where I'm got. I don't believe. So, this is kind of where I'm coming from, and I don't know how many voices I'm going to reach where people are going to say, hey, I get it now, and it's that snowball effect, and more and more people are going to start to get it. So that's where if I were to just bury my head in the sand like a lot of people want to do, do you still believe that freedom is inevitable for somebody who's going to bury their head in the sand?
Well, when you ask it on an individual level, freedom is really an internal process first.
Yeah.
I think as people like you and I talk about these issues, and here I really cite my background in psychology as a very helpful, body of information for me to be carrying around. Right. That a lot of what government depends on is an emotional buy-in. This is, and like you talk about this on your show, and I know you're really hip to this, and your audience is really clued into the psychological manipulations that are necessary in government, like the reason propaganda works. is because people fall for it. It induces fear, and fear is a powerful factor in manipulating people. So when people are afraid, they're easily manipulated and so on. And I know that you get all of this. But what I think people forget is that it's this kind of emotional freedom of deciding to be able to choose your own state of mind at any time, to be free of the expectations and the emotional bullying of others, be they other family members or friends or authority figures or government, and how that affects the way that the government racket works is really important to understand, because if you can embrace emotional freedom for yourself, you'll never be a slave to anything. You'll never you can be threatened, you can see government for what it is, but you will never well, if you can decide to be happy whenever you want, and you can look at your oppressor with pity instead of hatred and anger, you're never going to suffer under statism. You're never going to suffer in life. And that kind of emotional freedom is what leads to physical or political or real freedom. And getting to that fundamental level first, in a way, is more important than any of the political stuff. And I see that as a trend of human empowerment that also is inevitable. People are getting better at this. Technology is empowering people to be better at this.
No, I absolutely, and you made me think of something, and I thought about asking you. I think did you ever hear of a boxer named I think it was Hurricane Joe? The box. I
know the song.
Reuben Hurricane Carter.
I know the song
Reuben
from
Hurricane Carter.
They put him in jail, and I think he wrote a book, and he refused to take off his clothes, his regular street clothes, and he refused to submit, and they threw him in the hole. And you've been to jail, you know how this goes. But can you hear me? Could he hear me? Could you hear me, Adam? Oh, come on, man, really?
Hey, Anthony, you froze up there.
All right, could you hear me?
No.
How about now?
No.
Hang on. Right in the chat room, tell them to hang on.
People getting me?
Oh, man, hang on, come on.
Oh, hey. Looks like we lost Anthony.
Are you able to write in the chat room?
I guess it's just me. Alright, well, until Anthony gets back on, I'll keep people entertained here. Any questions from the chat? How did this happen again? Nobody? Blue! My dog is here, and his allergies are bugging him. He's chewing himself. Nobody? Nobody got questions? Okay, what am I supposed to do until Anthony gets back on? Just start reading the book? Alright, you have a question?
Okay, alright. Are you,
Hate
You're not back yet.
crone me.
Let's see.
There
Okay.
you go.
Alright.
I'm back. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you just fine, Anthony.
Awesome. Sorry about that. So this boxer, he was put in jail, and he refused to take off I think he was wearing a suit, and they threw him in the hole in solitary confinement, and he absolutely refused to submit. I forget how long they left him in the hole, and it was an extremely long time. And he ended up getting the respect of a lot of people there. And he said, you can do whatever you want to me, but I'm a man. I'm not guilty of the crimes you're saying I'm guilty of. And you can do whatever you want to me. And he just would not submit, no matter how they sent guards in to beat him up, and he would not take his clothes off. So are you coming at it from that aspect where no matter what you do to somebody, that if freedom is a state of mind, and you're at the point where you're not going to let your oppressors get you down, then it is what it is. I mean, do what you want. I'm going to do everything I can, but I don't know where are you at on that?
I don't think that's what I'm getting at with the kind of refusal, and I'm very familiar with that kind of activism. I refused to take PPD shots and DNA tests and fingerprints and stuff like that when I was in jail. I refused to go for an arraignment. I made them handcuff me to a wheelchair and wheel me in once. So I'm definitely hip to that. Don't get me wrong. I totally get that. But what I'm getting at is more the internal, the mental attitude here about the emotional freedom. Sorry, hold on. Blue! my dog's going crazy here.
That's right.
Anyway, what I'm getting at with this is not just that you. It's really about the attitude. It's the attitude towards the oppressors, and it's about getting past hate. Like, you can do that. Like, you could be doing prison resistance and say, I'm not going to cooperate with this, I'm not going to cooperate with that, and still and be an asshole. You know, and like, you know, and I've done that before. I've yelled at cops. You know, I've gotten in their faces. I've yelled at people who had that authority over me in jail, in prison. You know, I've talked back, and that's. There's a place for that, you know, but generally speaking, I think we're more effective when we don't when we're, instead of being angry, because when you're angry, this is the thing. When you're angry, when you're in a bad mood, you are an emotional slave. You are an emotional cripple. You're allowing your state of mind to be determined by someone else. You're voluntarily submitting in the most significant way possible. But if instead you meet your oppressors with love and a smile and a laugh, you know, and a handshake, and even the ones that have the boot heel on your neck, you know, then you really change the equation. You show them like how much better off you are being free, and that's what I want to share with people. Anyway, can I answer a question from the chat here, Anthony?
Yeah, absolutely, brother.
Yeah, Hate Crime said, given what you know about what is coming regarding our political landscape, why move to California? And that's a really good question, because I did not do it for my own benefit, in a sense. I did it for purely business reasons. And I'm not here because this is like the safest or freest place by any stretch of the imagination. No. And I'm in West LA. Like, this is not a good place to be for a lot of reasons. I'm very happy and comfortable here, and, you know, in terms of the weather, if not the air quality. Although I'm close enough to the water, the air quality is not too bad. I'm able to eat clean here, and I'm able to work out, and I love the weather. But it's not like if it was up to me, I'd be living on some land somewhere, and that's what I'm sort of working towards after we've abolished the state, you know. But no, I did not move out here to get away from government. In a way, I moved here to get to a critical mass of statism that I can use to make videos, and there's certainly this is certainly a target-rich environment for bad ideas.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I want to ask you this, and because I'm curious, just in your opinion, how you feel about this, and after just getting done talking about how much people are, and hopefully the progress is going to continue to keep going. What do you think was, in your opinion, what's the number one contributing factor of how, I'd say how it got this way, but I think I'd be more precise by saying why people, not modern Americans, I'm sorry to say, reject freedom so much, where they believe they need to have this institution that oppresses them. What do you think is the biggest? I know there's so many contributing factors, but if you had to, say one or even two, what do you think got this population, this generation, however you want to put it, modern America? What do you think got us here that people reject this idea right now?
Wait. I only get two? Oh yeah, screw you, Anthony. Just to show how free I am, I'm going to take three, okay?
All right.
I wish I had, like, a really good answer to this, like, pre-thought out, because that's a great question. It's a really big question. But right away, there are sort of three dynamics that leap to mind as these primary social arcs determinants. One is the intellectual development of humanity, and in a way, this is the positive countervailing force, or the sort of, we're only as far as democracy in our thinking right now, from having gone from tribalism to feudalism, to serfdom, to socialism, communism, whatever, monarchies, to modern democracies. And so that's one curve, although that's kind of like the countervailing arc here. The other two are the development of modern bureaucratic governments, and that's just sort of a phenomenon of the phenomenon itself, is that, like, once you have this kind of institutionalization of government, then it's going to grow, it's going to metastasize. It's just sort of the nature of the cancer of government itself. And then the third one is the prevalence of technology and productivity and quality of life. And the fact that especially where we are, and that is where we are globally with that, determines where we are in America as the citizens of the empire in terms of our quality of life. And it's sort of like we are capable of taking care of ourselves and being very comfortable here while still working for government half the year, although there are a lot of people who are struggling and uncomfortable, obviously, now. And government can kind of keep us as the, well-kept citizens of the empire. And so quality of life can keep going up while people can keep getting dumbed down and tuned out, because they can always rationalize it to themselves. Well, becoming an activist and paying attention, that sounds risky. It might get me in trouble with the NSA. But
I can get arrested 36 times.
Yeah, or it's like I can sit back and chill and be a well-kept slave. And it's not like it's as simple as one or the other. But, that force of how much we are able to take care of ourselves and entertain ourselves and all of that because of the profusion of technology and quality of life, I think that's one of those big forces that's, keeping people locked into the system.
Yeah, no, that sounds great, brother. I have one more question.
Wait, have you seen The Matrix?
Oh, absolutely. Are you kidding me? I live.
those pods of pink goo?
Oh yeah, right.
They're really comfortable.
Yes, sir, brother. That's about right. That's the turning point, man. That's right. That's your book. Nice, excellent. I remember one day somebody called into your show, and am I still good? Okay. Somebody called into your show and they said, I want to be anti-American with you, and I remember your response was, are we anti-American here? And so what's your, when we talk about borders being arbitrary lines on a map, okay, and obviously we don't support the state, the government, and are looking to abolish it. What do you say to somebody that asks you your opinion on America in general? Because there's a difference between the country and the government. What would you say to that?
I don't know, man. You answer the questions.
That'll be the last one, brother.
There's so many different levels to unpack that on. To think of America right now, this is not a country that has its shit together. Yeah. There's no way around it. When you understand government for what it is, the question of what is America? Well, America is suffering under the racket of government. America has this giant leech on its ass. America is living under the thumb of a large group of people that is exploiting everybody in a major way, and in a way the population is just we're at that. I don't like to personify America too much. I think that sort of feeds into this artificial sense of nationalism.
That's where I'm getting at.
The people of America really do represent a unique phenomenon in human history that we shouldn't try to pretend to deny, pretend that it doesn't exist because we're able to see past it to with this, magical vision. But the American population is sort of, the people that at one point were the pioneers and busted out and worked really hard and developed the base of prosperity that made it possible for the most giant evil leech in human history to latch onto it, right. And got to the point where it's like it's kind of like the course of a disease, and the American experiment and the American people really do represent a beautiful, amazing thing, and I think the founding of this country, maybe not the creation of the government, but the founding of the country in the sense of a break away from the British Empire was a beautiful, amazing thing to be celebrated. And there is still, a distinct American spirit. There is still something within this country that is truly unique and truly amazing. But right now, it's nothing to celebrate or to really to want to stand back and appreciate. Because if anything, right now that quintessential Americanness is going away. And if anything, like You know who's the most American group of people in America right now? Illegal immigrants from Mexico. Like, seriously, the ones saying, screw the government, screw the lines on the map, we're just going to land of the free? I'm coming in. You know, like, it's like the ultimate civil disobedience, freedom of movement, freedom of where to live and who to associate with. And they're, you know, like, the American people are, in that sense, really not very American right now. So, it's, I hope that answers your giant question.
Yeah, I know.
I could write a book to answer that one.
Yeah, I know it definitely could, but I don't know. Anything else you want to put out there, brother? I know I hit you with a bunch of real big questions. I certainly appreciate you coming on. You know, everything you do, your book. How about events? Anything big? July 4th. What's going on July 4th exactly?
Well, we're kicking off the official release of the book with a 24-hour marathon at adamvstheman.com/live. We'll be starting at 9 a.m. on July 3rd, going to 9 a.m. on July 4th, and it's all about the book now. I mean, I don't care about myself. I don't care about Adam versus the Man. It's just another way to get the message of the book out there. And I gotta warn you that you're going to read the book, you're going to listen to it, you're going to want everybody on this planet to read the book. It's going to turn you into a freedom zombie. You know, it's viral. It's going to infect you, and you're going to see, like, this is it, Adam. This is the ultimate red pill. What do we got to do? And I know that the people listening now are, you know, a lot of people who are passionate about this and hardcore about this. And I would just please, for people that are listening to this now, for people that are you know, on this, I implore you, I beg of you, read the book. I don't care if you buy it. You know, you can buy it for 99 cents on Amazon as a Kindle, just because you have to charge something there. But you can download the Kindle version for free on my website as well at adamvstheman.com/freedom. If people make reviews, make a video review, or write something up, you know, I'll post it on my website. I'll post it on Facebook and Twitter. We've got, if you make a video review, I'll put it on my channel. Anthony, you should do this. Make a video review. Do like 3 minutes why you want people to read the book, and I'll post it on my channel and link it back to your channel, so you get some promo benefit out of that. And like, I really think that's it's all about that. This is when I was talking about earlier when I was looking for sponsors. I was saying, like, hey, what I'm doing now, this is the ultimate, the Adam versus the Man, doing the live show, like, that's waking people up, and it is, and I'm really grateful to still be able to do that now. But sorry, like, Adam versus the Man sucks next to this book. Like, seriously.
You just said
before I go, I just want to answer a quick question.
You just said sorry to yourself.
Yeah. No, I want to. No, Anthony. Before I go, I want to answer this question from the chat. What do you think of the police in the U.S. using MRAPs in small towns? A lot of people get paranoid when they see stuff like that. The mine-resistant armored protection vehicles, or whatever they are, mine-resistant armored something. Anyway, we had those in Iraq. Like, it was a big deal when we first got those when I was in Fallujah. But in terms of using them in small towns, like, I think the only thing to be afraid of is what's already happened. Like, you don't need to. They're not going to start, driving through homes or protests with these MRAPs and, like, running people over. That's not, like, it might happen, but that's not the reasonable fear. The reasonable fear is, hey, guess what? You already got ripped off to pay for this thing. So that's what it's all about: money, power, and ripping people off. So, Anthony, thanks for having me. I really appreciate it. Look forward to seeing a review on the book for it.
Absolutely, and to anybody who's listening and who's going to see this, I want to add that I think that speaks volumes for you, brother, and that you put so much work into this, and I mean you've been at the tip of the spear for years now, and that you put so much work into this, and you're doing everything you can to get this book out to people for free. So you're not you just want people to read it. You want to open up minds because you care that much that people get this, and you have an idea. You realize that, my God, this could seriously change the course of human history. If you just understand this, if you just grasp this. So I totally understand the passion there, and I respect it, and that's why I support you fully. And yeah, I will do everything I can to get that out to everybody, and you know, I tell people that they need to read this, they need to understand this, and well, you know, we're gonna just keep doing what we're doing. I mean, I don't think there's a doubt about it that we are literally changing the world. So we'll just keep changing the world. How about that, brother?
Freeing people's minds one at a time. Thanks so much, Anthony.
All right, brother.
All right,
There you
brother.
go.
There you go.
All right, man. So there you have it. That was the one and only Adam Kokesh, who has his book out, Freedom, and so glad to have him on the show tonight talking about that and talking about so many other issues. You can sign back in, Jim. Talking about so many other issues, and you know, I can't emphasize this enough. You know, and if you don't see it at this point, if you don't get it, I don't want to say anything derogatory. I'm going to be optimistic tonight. You really need to, you really need to check this out and read this. You know, and I've known Adam for years. We became good friends over the years, and I support him fully in what he does.